very good evening, Eswatini. You're watching Eswatini TV News Bulletin at 8, read to you by myself, Notile Sitole. First up, here's a look at tonight's headlines. The Republic of China and Taiwan has donated PPE worth over 535,000 emalangeni. The Ministry of Tinkula Administration and Development has installed a wide area network in 45 constituencies around the country. The chairperson of the country's Siswati board encourages parents to ensure that children are fully conversant with their mother language for Siswati to be fully preserved. And now, the news in detail. The Republic of China on Taiwan has donated PPE and other items which will be used by frontline health personnel, rural health motivators and other caregivers valued at 535,000 emalangeni. The donated items were presented by Taiwan's ambassador to Eswatini, Jeremy Liang, to the Minister of Health, Lizinkosi, in an event held at the embassy in Mbabane.
Accepting the donation of personal protective equipment and items valued at 535,000 emalangeni from the Republic of China on Taiwan, the Minister of Health, Lizinkosi, expressed government's gratitude, saying the items came at a time when they were needed the most to fight the spread of COVID-19.
Deep appreciation today that the Ministry of Government is receiving this generous donation from the government of Taiwan to our community workers. We do believe that going forward, as you said, we've come through a very, very difficult second wave of the pandemic. It has left us scarred in many different ways. It has left us shaken in so many different ways. But we believe that as we go forward, right now the numbers are showing that it's reducing, and we are not going to let our guard down, because we do know that going towards winter in our season is a season for colds and flus, and there's the predictors, the scientists are telling us there's definitely going to be a third wave.
Presenting the items, Taiwan's ambassador Jeremy Liang says his country is committed to helping Eswatini. He says as soon as the embassy received a request from the ministry for the items, they immediately allocated resources in order to avail finances to help the health personnel. He says Taiwan will continue to contribute to the kingdom and the world to fight against the spread of COVID-19. The Minister of Health promises that all equipment donated by Taiwan will go to the intended beneficiaries. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Nelson Langamandla in Mbabane.
The Minister of Health, Lizinkosi, has received a consignment of donated books and adult disposable nappies, which will be used by patients undergoing treatment for COVID-19 in different hospitals in Eswatini. The items were donated by the Inner Wheel Club of Eswatini and will benefit over 200 patients.
People undergoing treatment for COVID-19 have the need of empowering themselves through reading motivational books and quotes and giving them hope. The Inner Wheel Club of Eswatini has donated 200 books to the Ministry of Health, as well as disposable nappies for adults and other things. The organization's PRO Pinky Nyandoro says reading is power, therefore they need to be empowered while undergoing treatment.
We have taken on a project where we have gone and collected items which would be able to assist those that are in hospital and are not well, to help assist them improve their mental health and the emotional state, so that they are able to also journey on the healing path a lot quicker.
The Minister of Health, Lizinkosi, passed her appreciation on behalf of government, saying this will go a long way in their healing process.
We have not before in the response had somebody bring in books, bring in, things like they are used all the time. Diapers are used all the time for children, for adults as well. But to bring in books for those that can read, can be able to spend their time. Some people are ill at home and they are closed up there. Some of these are very thoughtful gifts.
These books will also be used by the staff. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MCB with Tempekos Mavimbela, Mbabane.
The Ministry of Tinkula Administration and Development has installed a wide area network in 45 constituencies around the country in Phase 3 of the program. This is an update given by the Principal Secretary in the Ministry, Nonhlanhla Dlamini.
The Ministry of Dinkhundla Administration and Development started the program to install network in all the Dinkhundla centers in the country so that Eswatini can access government's documents and ensure easy communication among the ministry's departments. The Principal Secretary Nonhlanhla Dlamini says they are now in phase 3 of the program, which is now installing the wide area network, which gives Eswatini more access to government's domain.
Where we are now putting the wide area network. That network is going to help everybody around the country in each Dinkhundla to be able to access the government mainframe so that whatever is happening within government, they are not left behind. That was the 3 phases. We are on the 3rd phase and we're about to finalize that since we have now installed about 45 Dinkhundla, the wide area network, and some women in development centers, as you know, that we are also housing women in development centers and the regions.
She also gives progress on the meeting halls financed through the Regional Development Fund built at Imiphakathi.
We are encouraging communities to stand up, hold hands with the ministry and move forward in building community halls, because we know that each Dinkhundla comprises of more than one umphakathi. So it's still a long distance for some of the communities to move to the Dinkhundla. We're encouraging communities to have community halls so that in due course then we're able to solicit funding to connect all the networks so that the people in the community do not have to walk long distances to access government services. That's another thing that the strategy that the ministry is working on. Thank you.
The Principal Secretary says they are hoping to have installed the wide area network in all the 54 Dinkhundla centers by the end of this year. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Nelson Ngamandla with Muzim Mkhonda in Babane.
Chairperson of the country's Siswati board, Nkosikazi Thandi Khumalo, says parents have the responsibility to teach their children Siswati language and ensuring that they are conversant with their mother language to ensure that they do not lose an important aspect of their national identity. Nkosikazi Khumalo was speaking during the commemoration of Mother Language Day at the George Hotel in Manzini.
Annually on the 21st of February, the world commemorates the Mother Tongue Day, emphasizing the importance of native languages. This year's theme speaks to fostering multilingualism for inclusion in education and society, which calls for policymakers, parents and teachers, as well as families to scale up their commitment to multilingual education. The chairperson of the Siswati board, Nkosikazi Thandi Khumalo, says it is the responsibility of every parent to ensure that their children learn the importance of their native language.
We are stressing the importance of learning from the known to the unknown, because if you have not mastered your own culture and your own language, it will be difficult for you to master somebody else's language. So you will be neither here nor there.
The director of Macmillan Eswatini, Busisiwe Smelane, who was the guest speaker, says in every unfortunate situation there is a good thing that comes out of it because COVID-19 has brought certain opportunities to the country.
If you look at multilingualism, it speaks to each language being strong, each language being independent of another, but in one way or another, each language promoting the existence of another and strengthening the existence of another. By so saying, it means each language must have its own foundation and be strong to such an extent that it can participate or it can communicate at different levels and can be used to put across messages at different levels.
They say they now have to come up with Siswati words associated with COVID-19, including sanitizers, ventilators, amongst other words. The event was also streamed on YouTube due to COVID-19 limitations. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MCB, Manzini.
Wife to late Senator Jimmy Hlophe has taken legal action against a woman she claims was in a relationship with her husband. The applicant wants the court to order the respondent to surrender her late husband's bank card as she is allegedly withdrawing money from the deceased accounts. We have a report.
In the urgent application, Elizabeth Nonhlanhla Hlophe has taken legal action against Andile Hlophe and Bonsile Kwebu, who was in a relationship with the applicant's husband. Elizabeth is the wife to late politician Jimmy Hlophe. Elizabeth wants an order interdicting and restraining the respondents from disposing of Jimmy's assets. The applicant claims her late husband was in a relationship with Bonsile and at times resided with her at their other home at Siqineni. Elizabeth alleges that since the passing of her husband, Bonsile has been in possession of assets belonging to the deceased, which include motor vehicles, a tractor, bank accounts and personal documents. She claims Bonsile is refusing to hand over the assets to her as the deceased wife. Elizabeth alleges that Andile advertised Jimmy's Toyota Fortuner with the intention to sell same for 540,000 emalangeni on Facebook. Elizabeth claims that Bonsile has been withdrawing monies from the deceased account from the time he was admitted in hospital around the 5th of January to date. She claims to be awaiting for bank statements from Nedbank and the First National Bank. The applicant has submitted that she has a clear right to the interdict sought as the surviving spouse. She has also submitted that the law provides that she should take charge of the assets of the deceased until an executor is appointed by the Master of the High Court. Elizabeth has further submitted that she stands to suffer irreparable harm if the interdict is not granted, as Andile might sell the deceased motor vehicle to an innocent third party. The applicant claims that Bonsile might clean out the deceased bank accounts. She claims Bonsile would not be in a position to reimburse the deceased estate because she is unemployed and has no source of income, and therefore a claim for damages would be an exercise in futility. The veracity of these allegations is yet to be tested in a court of law. The applicant is represented by Noncedo Ndlangamandla in the matter. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela, High Court.
The High Court has ordered that cash amounting to 158,000 emalangeni found in the possession of a South African man at Mananga be preserved by the state. The Crown believes the money comes from proceeds of crime, hence it should be forfeited to the state as provisioned in the Prevention of Organised Crime Act. The accused in the matter had said he intended to buy a car for his pregnant Leswati girlfriend.
Last year, police apprehended Neo Kamanyana and Lebohang Serati hiding in Reed at Mananga after allegedly entering the country illegally. Kamanyana was found in possession of 158,000 emalangeni in cash. Kamanyana reportedly told the police that he was going to see his pregnant girlfriend, whom he wanted to buy a car. He is said to have told police that he runs a pub in the neighboring country. However, its bank account is in the name of its former owner. The Crown says it expects Kamanyana's matter at the Magistrates Court to be concluded tomorrow, and if set free, he might have to be given back the money. The Crown says it is for that reason that it filed an urgent application for a preservation order for the cash, which it will eventually apply for it to be forfeited. The state says it doubts the narrative that Kamanyana is a businessman, as his story does not add up. The Crown wonders how Kamanyana can be an owner of a pub whose account is in the name of another person. The Crown was puzzled as to why Kamanyana did not transfer the money into his girlfriend's bank account. It also wondered how the accused knew where to cross into the country illegally if he was a legitimate businessman. The Crown says it will state further reasons why it believes these are proceeds of crime in court if need be. The state says it believes the money was to be used to buy dacha in the country. It based this on that a car belonging to a person described as a known drug dealer was found close to where the accused was hiding. The Crown says this is no coincidence. The Crown says people who may have any legal claim to the money can prove same before court. Principal Judge Qinisile Mabuza granted the order. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela, High Court.
Local small and medium enterprises who have set their sights on applying for loans in government's 45 million Emalangeni revolving fund for SMMEs need to have a clean credit record. This was said by SME Director in the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Meluleki Dlamini. The SME Director says by far, local business people seem to be well versed on application procedures and the set requirements in the different funding facilities that government has put in place.
The government of the Kingdom of Eswatini introduced various funds which will allow Eswatini to be able to create job opportunities and make a meaningful contribution to the economy. These funds include the 45 million Emalangeni revolving fund for SMMEs, which will assist entrepreneurs in the country to access business-related funding. SMEs Director in the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Meluleki Dlamini, says eligibility to this fund will depend on individual applicants' credit history, as only those with a clean record will have their loan request approved.
We must report that Eswatini Bank will check the applicant's credit history, and people should know that this fund is strictly for business.
Eswatini Bank Managing Director Zakhele Lukele, in a telephonic interview, stated that many business people have shown interest in applying for the fund since the commencement of the fund on the 1st of February 2021. Lukele further stated that they are still looking into the applications received. Business Eswatini CEO Inati Dlamini, in an interview, stated that local entrepreneurs who may need assistance in applying for the fund are allowed to visit their offices. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni with Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla in Babane.
A woman who was driving a Nissan 1-ton miraculously survived a near-fatal accident at Lozita, which occurred when the bonnet of the vehicle she was driving suddenly burst open while the car was in motion. The vehicle immediately overturned when this happened. We have a report.
An elderly woman who was driving a Nissan 1-ton is lucky to be alive after she miraculously survived her overturning car along the Babane Manzini highway at Lozita. The car overturned this morning after its bonnet busted open while it was in motion, losing control of the vehicle in the process. The Emergency Medical Services EMS responded promptly. Mbongiseni Mamba Traffic Police said the driver was alone in the car, sustained minor injuries.
Ngaba ngiko nje ukugcizelela nabakithi kubashayeli ukuthi phela naselina litulu selikanje lesimo sesishintshile. Nabo abashintshe indlela abacabanga ngayo basashayela imoto. Itubane alehle ngoba kunemanje emgwaqweni phinze kuyashelela. So kwente ngaso ukhanza sithikabetu nawuthi abhilika imoto ingasemi ngalendlela kufanele ime ngayo kufana nakhathi komile.
He encourages motorists to ensure that their vehicles are in a roadworthy state before they can embark on any journey. He further warns motorists against speeding on rainy, wet weather because the roads are slippery. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MCB, Lozita.
A very good evening once again. You're still watching Eswatini TV. Now we'll have a look at our sports news. Eswatini Football Association Chief Executive Officer Frederick Mgometulu says the association is honored that Eswatini has been considered a potential candidate to host this year's Under-20 COSAFA tournament. Mgometulu was speaking in an interview with Eswatini TV Sports following an announcement made by COSAFA during its annual general meeting this past weekend that Eswatini is being considered as a candidate to host this year's tournament.
COSAFA hosted its annual general meeting this past weekend in the Republic of South Africa to look at different issues on how to develop football in the region. The meeting that was attended by FIFA President Gianni Infantino gave a platform that will come as a good news to the Kingdom of Eswatini to host this year's Under-20 tournament. National Football Association Frederick Ngometuru, who is the Chief Executive Officer, says it is an honor for the country to be given such a huge responsibility.
Yeah, for us as the Eswatini Football Association, it is an honor to be recognized to actually host one of the COSAFA competitions, in particular the under-20 boys. However, as a country, we know there are maybe say prerequisites to one to host a competition, which we are still yet to discuss with COSAFA and share with the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini and various stakeholders to assure ourselves and the rest of the public and COSAFA, most importantly, that we can be in a position to host the competition successfully.
Ngometulu highlighted that a couple of logistics will need to be put in place to see this taking place. The actual tournament will take place in December this year. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Mbabane.
Young Buffaloes have landed in Tunis, which is the capital city of Tunisia, for their CAF Confederations Cup return match against Etoile du Sahel. The game between the two teams will take place on Tuesday from 5 p.m. at the Olympique de Sousse Stadium. Etoile du Sahel won the first leg of this match, which was played at Mavuso Sports Center in Manzini, with a 2-1 win. For Young Buffaloes to proceed to the next stage of the CAF Confederations Cup, Etoile du Sahel will have to lose Tuesday's game with a score of 2-0. The latest developments on Young Buffalo's arrival in Tunisia and details of the return match were given by Eswatini Football Association in an update shared on social media platforms. And moving on with the news, the suspension of football games in the country due to tightened COVID-19 restrictions has left a huge void among local fans who are wondering when football-related activities will be allowed again. Sizwe Ndlovu, who is a loyal Mbabane Highlander supporter, says the lack of action in the sport locally has forced him to turn his attention to international games, which is something he is not accustomed to.
Football activities in the country continue to be a problem. The suspension of the new season of the 2020-2021 has left supporters of the local football wondering when will they get a chance to once again watch their local football. Sizwe Ndlovu is known to be a loyal Mbabane Highlander supporter. He says they have now shifted their attention to the international football. Ndlovu says in most cases you do not have much to do, and that's when they find themselves missing the local football compared to how things used to be in the past. In the past, it was highlighted that the league could resume in March this year, but it remains to be seen how effective that could be. The return of the local football, we have also a positive note on the preparations of the national team for the AFCON qualifiers. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Mbabane.
That's all for now. Before we conclude, let's have a look at tonight's headlines. The Republic of China and Taiwan has donated PPE worth over 535,000 emalangeni. The Ministry of Tinkula Administration and Development has installed a wide area network in 45 constituencies around the country. The chairperson of the country's Siswati board encourages parents to ensure that children are fully conversant with their mother language for Siswati to be fully preserved. That brings us to the end of our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the weather update. From myself and the team here at Eswatini TV, thank you for watching. Good night.